Bishop, it's an exciting day. You and I have been working diligently behind the scenes to continually improve the quality of our broadcasts. How are you feeling today, Bishop?
Oh, Jason, I feel great today, and you and I are so very blessed to be awakened and to be truthers here in the 21st century. So I'm doing great today, and we have to send up prayers for Amy Coney Barrett. I believe that she will be confirmed as the next Supreme Court justice here in the United States for America.
Absolutely. And Bishop, you're sounding so sharp and crisp today. As I said, we've been working to improve these broadcasts. I used to speak a lot about this Japanese concept called Kaizen, which I really admire. I spent a small amount of time in Japan, but there are things about Japanese society that I feel are admirable. The organization, the respect for others. The Kaizen principle is this constant refinement of a process or a technology in the pursuit of perfection. But if I understand it correctly, I believe the Japanese also think that perfection is divine and that man could never achieve it, but the pursuit of it is noble.
That is so true, Jason, because you hit a powerful nerd with me just now, as you always do. There is a Japanese fish called koi. It's a fish that grows to the size of whatever tank that it is put in. So a koi Japanese fish grows to the size of that tank. And if that tank is not large enough to contain that type of koi, fish, that fish will definitely end up suffocating. So, again, this is a work in progress, especially when it comes to podcasting and radio broadcasting. So, you are indeed, Jason, one of the most intelligent men I've ever encountered. And I'm not saying this because I'm a part of the Crowdsource the Truth family. Your acuity level is on another level. So, getting back to the Japanese spirituality of perfection, that is so very true, my friend.
Well,
Absolutely.
thank you, Bishop. I appreciate you saying that. I also want to remind people, Bishop, that they can watch our videos that you and I produce each Tuesday, not only on the Jason Goodman YouTube channel, which thankfully I was just last week able to restore. You and I have spoken about how the National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences are trying to destroy Crowdsource the Truth. They're failing right now, and I think they're going to have a bad day later today when they check the court docket. But viewers can join us not only on the Jason Goodman YouTube channel, the Crowdsource the Truth 2 YouTube channel, but our simulcasts are always available on the Global Spiritual Revolution Radio and Media Group YouTube channel. And I must commend you, Bishop. You are having tremendous growth on the channel. The Global Spiritual Revolution is truly getting the international acclaim that it deserves. And I always like to remind our viewers, Bishop, that they can support you and your team at Global Spiritual Revolution Radio by going to paypal.me/GSRR Media Group, and people can make a financial contribution of their choice. We don't ever want anybody to feel obligated or to make any kind of contribution that puts them in a financial bind, but even small amounts of sponsorship make this show possible. Bishop, we're also expanding out even as Facebook tries to squelch Crowdsource the Truth. We're no longer available on Facebook. It was totally canceled last week without warning or explanation. But thankfully, our mutual friend Alex Jones has extended the courtesy of allowing me to create a Crowdsource the Truth channel on band.video. And due in part, Bishop, to your enormous popularity with the InfoWars audience, I've begun to put all of our videos on there. And Bishop, they're getting tremendous viewership. Thousands of people have now seen your series on Kobe Bryant. We've spoken about Scientology, which drew a lot of attacks. Many different videos about President Trump. Look at this, 47,000 views on the Kobe Bryant Luciferian project completed. So people now have options, even as the digital overlords that attempt to control society and manipulate people's thoughts try to silence your voice, Bishop. It is like water filling a bucket. It cannot be kept in.
It cannot be kept in, my friend. knowing enough about the subject to think we're right, but not knowing enough about the subject to know that America is wrong. You and I have been under severe attack by people who are now, these same people who are attacking you and I on YouTube are attacking the president. And so these are social engineers.
Absolutely.
And the only reason why they're doing this, Jason, because they don't have much of a large subscriber following. So they're trying to build their brand by trashing you and I. It doesn't work, Jason. And so that's the reason why everyone is pawns in the game, not just Black people. But as you said a few weeks ago, my friend, everyone is a pawn in the game where our historical pain and trauma is constantly being manipulated and weaponized. So, all these people who are attacking you and I, it's building your brand and mine because people are saying, well, why is Jason Goodman being attacked? Why is Bishop Larry Gaiters being attacked? So they come to your powerful YouTube page, my friend, and my page, and we're growing. So what they meant for evil, God has turned it around to make it for our good. So we thank God for that.
Absolutely, Bishop. And I don't have nearly the level of knowledge or education in terms of religion that you do, but I do agree that God is on our side. We
Yes.
are here fighting for good, and that is a huge advantage over those who would choose to do evil. So I thank you once again for joining me, Bishop, and we're going to get into part 3 of your series on pawns in the game, and people are watching us on a variety of different channels. So without further ado, Bishop, perhaps we should get right into it.
Thank you so much, my friend. Pawns in the Game, The Weaponization of Black Trauma, Volume 3. This would be the last of this series. A very powerful quote and that I'm going to reveal right now that befits the title of what you and I are going to be talking about for the next hour and a half to 2 hours. Pawns in the Game, The Weaponization of Black Trauma. The pattern in the womb predetermines the life pattern outside of the womb. Allow me to say that again because that's a powerful paradigm. The pattern in the womb predetermines the life pattern outside of the womb. In other words, the foundation of Black America, not to be teaching on victimhood through the prism of victimization, but the foundation of Black America was built, Jason, according to the environment of our terrain. Allow me to say that again. The foundation of Black America was built according to the environment of the terrain. In other words, Jason, the condition of Black America as pawns, because Jason, we have to understand that concerning Black Black psychology. So the Black psychic of the Black man, the Black woman, not all of us, but a great percentage, it has been fully weaponized against us, Jason. So then, Barak de Spinoza said, and I quote, "What altar of refuge can a man find when he commits treason against the majesty of reason?" Now, you and I have been talking about for the past several weeks problem, reaction, solution. That is a crisis, a red flag manufacture crisis where the deep state creates a catastrophe, whether it's in Wisconsin or Minneapolis or Ferguson, Missouri, or Baltimore, Maryland, or Louisville, Kentucky. So then the deep
Right
state
here
on the
in New
left
York.
creates these crises. What's that, Jason?
Right
Yeah.
here in New York as well.
And yes, right here in New York. They create these crises in order to solicit a reaction, not just from Black people, but from people who have never dealt with their historical pain and their historical trauma, which we are going to demand a solution from the deep state, in which the deep state will give to us a solution that they already created, Jason. before they created the catastrophe or the crisis. That's problem, reaction, solution. Now, on the other side of the coin, there is what we call non-problem reaction solution. When you don't need a real problem, you only need the perception of a real problem. I want to say that again, because that is just as powerful as problem, reaction, solution. That you don't need a real problem, okay? You only need the perception of a real problem. In other words, this is how dark intelligence works, Jason, or intelligentsia, where they create a manufactured problem to give birth to a perception that will become the frame set of the Black psyche. That, hell again, dialect. It is a dialect through the manipulation of pain and the weaponization of trauma. So then, the manipulation of Black pain, the weaponization of Black trauma, as we had so powerfully articulated to your listeners concerning pawns in the game. So it starts with what we call thought, the process to think, which gives the proper understanding of thinking. So to understand what a pawn is, a pawn has a threefold dialectical psyop. They have thought, past, think, present, thinking, future. We call this the manipulation of reality, right? Esokinesis, the manipulation of time, chronokinesis, through the prism of the manipulation of probability, tachokinesis. So then in 2005, Jason, there was a study through the National Science Foundation that they had wrote this powerful report going back 15 years that the average person averages between 12,000 to 60,000 thoughts per day. Now think about that. They average between 12,000 to 60,000 thoughts per day, which 80% of those thoughts were deemed to be negative, okay? And 95% of those thoughts repeated the 80% of that same negativity. So that is what we call problem, reaction, solution through the prism of non-problem, reaction, solution. So then now the psychic of Black America is being manipulated. Now, when we come to 97% of the world is told to socially distance themselves by 6 feet. Well, 7.7 billion people times 6 equals 46,200,000,000 degrees of separation. You and I have 46 chromosomes. The number 200 is an Enoch 6. It gives a catalog, a listing of 200 angels in which 22 are made mention, but yet there's 22 letters in the Hebrew alphabet. Has nothing to do with the Jewish people. So then, when we're talking about pawns in the game, the pawn has a psyop, Jason, of self-hate, regardless of race, creed, or color, or ethnicity, because the pawn has been designed through thought that's been taught through thinking that becomes a language, a dialect in a speech. Allow me to say that again. So to understand the psychic of not just Black America, but Americans who are constantly duped and manipulated to react because of a Derek Chauvin or because of those 3 cops in Louisville, through thought that is taught, Jason, through thinking that gives birth to a language, a dialect, and a speech. where they've been taught that all white people are evil. And that's a lie, Jason. Why? That's the pawn. A pawn thinks of themselves or herself as a victim. Someone owes me something. And
Sorry,
I'll make
Bishop.
this say,
I don't
go
mean
right
to
ahead, Jason.
interrupt the flow, but you've just raised a really important point about Derek
Yes, sir.
Chauvin or Chavin or whatever the guy's name is. They
Yes, sir.
released him, which seems like the stupidest possible thing you could do because, first of all, where'd the guy get $1 million for bail or even
Shoot.
100,000?
Wow.
And I mean, how could you not know that this would create a huge protest? And Bishop, I mean, I'll be accused of being a conspiracy theorist for saying this, but I thought the mugshot that they released didn't look exactly like the guy we saw in the video. And now that he's been released from jail, I think this creates a pretext for some kind of story where I think we're never going to see Derek Chauvin again.
See, Jason, I'm telling you, my friend, that mugshot of the so-called Derek Chauvin, that's not Derek Chauvin. You and I and the American public, we are being duped and lied to again. Okay. And they know, the deep state knows that by releasing him, if that is indeed Derek Chauvin, which I don't think it is, it's going to cause a problem reaction solution. Okay. Whereas there's going to be more rioting. This is designed to injure not only the president, but the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, and the Bill of Rights. Derek Chauvin, I believe, could be connected indirectly to U.S. intelligence. Okay. So when we're talking about, and as a side note, Jason, there is a term that is so popular now because of Eric Garner, okay, because of George Floyd. I can't breathe. Well, that is one of the many Masonic terms for initiation. I can't breathe. So that's a moniker now here in the United States through people like LeBron James, a slave, and Stephen Curry, a slave. So Derek Chauvin being set free will cause another riot, Jason. This is what we call problem reaction solution in order to create a catastrophe because they know Black America is going to react, which the deep state will send their little slaves like Benjamin Crump, a boule, who removed that boule and that Sigma Pi Phi information. Remember last week, you brought that up. He took it
Yep.
out because he probably no doubt heard that Bishop was exposing him. Benjamin Crump doesn't love Black people. Benjamin Crump is really Toby. That's what Benjamin Crump is. He's Chicken George. He is a slave at the behest of his slave masters on the left. He goes to Louisville. Okay, he talks about Black power, gets a couple of $1 million, and he leaves. Then the people of that city picks up the pieces. Jason, this is a game that's been perpetuated against Black America for centuries when we're talking about not just problem reaction solution through the prism of the manipulation of our reality, time, improbability. Now, Jason, last week, actually the past 2 weeks, I love teaching. We've been talking about there's a great distinction between emancipation versus liberty. Now, the Emancipation Proclamation in 1863 was designed by Abraham Lincoln not to liberate the slave, but only to emancipate them. Well, the term emancipation means a new redesigned slave, just like the word manumission, right? Capital MANU, mission. And so the term manumission or emancipation, whereas the deep state says we're going to upgrade the slave to a modern IT technical slave with a brand new plantation. So when we're talking about the National Basketball Association with Adam Silver, the National Football League with Roger Goodell, the National Hockey League with Gary Bettman, in Major League Baseball with Rob Manfred. These four gentlemen are slave masters, not because they're white, has nothing to do with that. So when you're talking about the NFL, the NBA, the NHL, okay, National Hockey League, including Major League Baseball, all the slaves are not just black anymore, Jason. They're black, white, and Latino and Asian. This is a part of pawns in the game because they're being told by the deep state to kneel during the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay. My thing is, Jason, I not only blame the players of these four slave plantations of the NBA, the NFL, NHL, and Major League Baseball, but I blame the owners for allowing it to happen. Jason, you and I cannot go on a job and kneel during that working hour. We have to do that on our time. So why is the NFL, the NBA, okay? And thank you for bringing up the LA Lakers. That they won the world championship the other night. Jason, it's rigged. When Kobe Bryant was taken out, okay, it guaranteed the LA Lakers would win the title. I'll talk about that later on if we have time concerning pawns in the game, the weaponization of Black trauma. So that's manumission or emancipation. They are rich, but Jason, they're not wealthy. Black people, not all of us, Jason, a certain percentage of the Black psychic of America has never been taught concerning, Jason, generational wealth. We've been taught to spend from the moment. We get $1 million, half of that goes towards jewelry, cars, okay, where we have to chain up the car to a tree so it won't be repossessed because we lost all of the money. You see, Jason, this is a slave mentality. Not all Black people, a certain percentage. They are only emancipated to be rich, but they're not liberated to create generational wealth, Jason. Now, in saying that, to say this, I want to get, before we get to generational wealth concerning pawns in the game, the weaponization of Black trauma. Now, remember, Jason, you and I have been talking about two constitutions. Now, somebody may say, well, Bishop, what does the second constitution through the 1871 Act or the Act of 1871 have anything to do with pawns in the game? Well, glad you asked. The first constitution from 1776, ratified 3 times in 1781, 87, and 89. Then we go from that original constitution that made America not a democracy, but a theocratic government built upon God, the Word of God, as a Christian constitutional republic. Excellent link there, Jason. So the Enforcement Acts of 1870 and 71 came about because of pressure from both the Rothschilds out of England through the Vatican with Pope Pius IX, who wanted to take over the money supply of these United States for America. And because of that, President Ulysses S. Grant gave in to the pressure of both the Rothschilds and the Vatican system through Pope Pius IX. And notice his right hand, Jason. Remember that hand sign you and I talked about a week or two ago, a 666 hand sign, okay, which also the Nazi SS during the advent of the Second World War had perfected. Another topic for another day. Pawns in the game. So the second constitution has now given birth to the Internal Revenue Service. The IRS, Jason, is an illegal entity according to The first Constitution. Now, I'm not telling your listeners, stop paying your taxes. Don't do that. I don't want the IRS agents to come to arrest you. But the IRS, the Internal Revenue Service, is a British crown creation. That's why we fought against the British during the American Revolutionary War in 1776 concerning taxation without representation. So then, why are we paying taxes into a system that we fought against that made us a nation in 1776? Wesley Snipes, excellent link there, Jason. And when Wesley Snipes, notice Wesley Snipes trusted too many people, and Wesley Snipes was a boule who could not be controlled, so they set him up, and he was in prison for 3 years. When he came out, he's never the same. Why? Because these black celebrities are not liberated, Jason. They are emancipated or manumission. Jump in anytime if you see something. So because of the second Constitution, we have a social security card. Social security or socialism number of a counterfeit security, where black folks number, not all of us, but a certain percentage have odd numbers of 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9, and non-black people, not all, but a certain percentage has even numbers of 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. That was done because of the second Constitution in concert with the creation of the Act of 1871. It's called an act, Jason, because through the second Constitution, which is a fraudulent document, it causes the United States to be a corporation and not a Christian republic constitution or a constitutional republic. It has caused the United States not just to become a corporation, Jason, but actors on a stage. This is where we get the legal term act, acting. The stage is America because we're called the United States or the United Corporation for America. That was not the intent of the framers, Jason. The intent of the framers was not to give this nation over to world banking powers, okay? Rothschilds, Oppenheimers, and the Pritzkers. Now, again, that is because of the second Constitution. Now,
Bishop,
as a side note, Jason, go
you
right
did
ahead.
just remind me of something when you mentioned Pritzker. There was this whole thing, this guy in, was it Denver, who was hired as a security guard, and he was at some kind of anti-lockdown, pro-Donald Trump rally, and this guy shot the Donald Trump supporter in the face, and he's dead. That guy was hired by Pritzker.
Wow, Jason. I didn't know that. See, Jason, and also in concert to what you just said, the W hotel chain is owned by the Pritzkers. Okay, remember that pastor? Okay, out of Orlando who was found dead at a W hotel here in New York City. Okay,
wow.
Yes, he was found dead of a drug overdose. Okay. An excellent link there, Jason. So then Dr. Zachary Timms, he was going to expose the gay mafia within the church. Okay. He was going to expose the gay mafia or the boule, these boule preachers. So the Pritzkers, who also formerly owned the Sikorsky 76B helicopter through the Marmon Group, going back 3 years prior to the death of Kobe Bryant in January 2017. It was the Pritzkers who owned that helicopter before it was sold to the Island Holdings Group out of Van Nuys, California for $517,000. Now, I'm not blaming the Pritzker family, but Jason, I'm just a dot connector. And it's up to your people, powerful listeners, to come up with the proper conclusions as we're talking about pawns in the game, the weaponization of Black trauma. So remember, Jason, you and I had talked about the Boule Sicker Society and being created on the 15th of May in 1904 by and through 9 African American men, which created now what we call the National Pan-Hellenic Black Greek Letter Seeker Societies of 5 fraternities and 4 sororities or sorosers. Another topic for another day. Now you have a terrorist organizations, not just one, but 2, Antifa and Black Lives Matter. Antifa is the military arm of Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter is the propaganda arm of Antifa, where you have 3 black stinking witches. Excuse my English, Jason. Listen, I am the Christian John Wick. I have no mercy for witches. I am a John Wick. I'm the Black John Wick. My job is to expose this and cut its head off for what it is. You got these 3 excellent link there, Jason. 3 black lesbian witches. They're not witches, Jason, because they're black women. And they're not witches because they are women. They're witches because they're trying to destroy the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, and the Bill of Rights, so that the United States becomes the Declaration of Dependence as a third world country. These women, Jason, are going to be stopped when we're talking about they are pawns in the game. The deep state doesn't care about Alicia Garza, okay? The woman in the middle who recently spoke in Hawaii. The governor of the state of Hawaii is making millions of dollars because of the shutdown, Jason. I got friends in Hawaii that are telling me that people are losing their homes, losing their businesses because of this wicked demonic governor.
How does he make money from it, Bishop? How does he get the money?
Well, that's the $15 million question. We don't know how he got the money. But for some reason, some way, somehow, this man, and amongst other liberal, excellent link there, Jason, other liberal governors, they're making millions while Americans are losing their homes and their businesses. Jason, this has to be stopped when we're talking about these black pawns or pawns in the game, right? The weaponization of Black trauma.
Bishop, what's written on our chests here?
We talked about that. And if one of your listeners can really do some research on what that particular tattoo means. Now, remember, Alicia Garza, that's not her real last name. Her real last name is Schwartz. So it's Alicia Schwartz, and Schwartz is also the legal last name of George Soros. His last name is not Soros. His last name is Schwartz. Then you have Alicia Garza, Schwartz. She's Omega Phi Beta. Then you have Patrice Cullors, another witch. She's Omega Phi Beta. And you have Obatemedi of Nigerian descent. She's Alpha Kappa Alpha. They're all Boulets, Jason. So these women are thugs. They're trash. And let me say this again, Jason. When I'm about to say, I'm not talking about black women. I'm not talking about white women. I'm not talking about women. I'm talking about these 3 witches in connection to Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris is also Omega Phi Beta, whose mother was an Indian terrorist, Jason, a communist, whose father is of Jamaican descent, who was connected to Edward Seaga, another KGB-controlled asset. So Kamala Harris got where she's at now because Kamala Harris laid on her back and Kamala Harris sucked her way to the top. I'm sorry, Jason. I'm not talking about women. I am talking about, yes, She sucked her way to the top. As my great grandmother used to say, it got you there, but you won't stay there, Kamala. You cannot turn a whore into a housewife, and you cannot turn a whore into a vice presidential candidate. Another topic for another day.
Real
Now,
quick, Bishop.
pawns in the game. Go right ahead, Jason.
I know this is not very scientific, but I just wanted to, for a moment, visually compare Alicia Garza to George Soros. They do have similarly shaped faces, cheekbones,
Yes.
and nose,
Yes.
sort of slender eyes. I wonder.
See, Jason, what is the connection between these two human beings? They're not human beings, they're devils, Jason. Alicia Garza Swartz has a blood connection directly or indirectly to George Soros. George Soros does not love Black people.
Or
George
Jewish
Soros
people.
does not love Black America. George Soros is a geo and social engineer whose sole intent is to destroy America. Jason, Trump has to take him out. I'm sorry. Listen, Trump has to deal with this man because this man, George Soros, whose best friend is a British billionaire by the name of Joseph C. Lewis, capital Lewis, who was heavily connected to the late Kobe Bryant because Joseph C. Lewis, who is now on the run from MI5 and MI6, is living in the Bahamas, who created the Bohemian chapter, okay, of the Tavistock Group. So George Soros and Joseph C. Lewis back in 1992, okay, almost destroyed the Bank of England, Jason, and almost destroyed the euro dollar. So these men have got to be prosecuted. These are the puppet masters, Jason, when it comes to pawns in the game. Excellent link there. There you go, Jason. The
Bishop,
weaponization of Black trauma. And it's this Joseph C. Lewis who owns Fund 88. You and I talked about that.
But isn't it
During
also
the Kobe
strange
Bryant.
that he takes the name of a famous boxer, Joe Louis?
And you know what, Jason, I have a pastor friend. I got a lot of Nigerian pastor friends, right? Especially in England. And one I will not make mention, but he works for the federal government there in the UK. He said that's not his real name. Joseph C. Lewis is not his real name. So this billionaire who created Fund 88, FUN 88, which is now controlled by the Chinese underworld, the Chinese triads. The Chinese mob runs Fund 88. Why would Kobe Bryant get himself involved with gangsters? Another topic to another day, for another day. So the pawns in the game, excellent link there, Jason. Now we're going to get not just into Antifa and Black Lives Matter, and you and I have been talking about them for months now. Now, remember, Jason, last week you and I had touched on the New York Cotton Exchange, all right? So the New York Cotton Exchange and the New York Stock Exchange. This is connected directly and indirectly to what's going on now in Minneapolis and St. Louis and Louisville concerning pawns in the game, the weaponization of not just Black trauma, but American trauma. The New York Cotton Exchange. And Jason, can you do me a favor? Can you go, there you go. Can you go back to that sundial? Now, I saw something today, Jason, when I was going through this video from last week. Now, you notice, Jason, there is, if you go up a little, if you go up north a little, and you see, there you go, the sun, it's a red there. It looks like it's got, it. There you go. That looks like a replica of the sun or the star of Virginia, right? The former flag of Macedonia, which is on the flag and the logo of the CIA. That pointing, I don't know how many points that may or may not have 16 points. You and your powerful listeners can count, but that is a replica of the Star of Virginia. That's not only on the cover of the book Eaters of Children by Giovanni Cerisi, but also on the second book, Unmasked the Illuminati or Unmasking the Illuminati, okay, by Cerisi, okay, Giovanni Cerisi. Excellent, Virgin. There you go. And so also that 16-point sundial that I believe that's in Wall Street, if I'm not mistaken, Jason, that represents the logo on the front of the Central Intelligence Agency. But it also represents the 16-pointed sundial within the West African religion called Odu Ifa, which represents the 16 points of demonic possession of the human genome. And Odu Ifa, my friend, is the religion and the foundation of Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter has 16 chapters here in the United States, including in Canada. Go right ahead, Jason.
They've also painted a large Black Lives Matter mural in front of the courthouse there. Let me see if I can find a current image of it, because it's one of the most ornate ones that I've seen. I'm trying to find 500 Pearl Street, New York. I was just over there the other day. You know, I'm constantly being sued by dopes, so I have to go down to the courthouse all the time. Look, here it is, Bishop, and it's got a lot of, we can't really see it from this view, but it's, I think this is the Pan-African flag where it's green, red, and black. Yes. There's a lot of African imagery as you get closer to the courthouse and in front of, here's another image of it. No, actually, that's somewhere else. It's hard to find. I should have taken a picture of it when I was down there.
And Jason, I listen, I don't talk about people behind their back, but I was on a recent program some time ago where the host called himself Hotep. I'm not going to say his name. I love the brother. I'm praying for him. But the problem with Black trauma is this. When I asked him, okay, when did you pick up this name Hotep? He said 6 years ago. Then I asked him, Jason, who gave you the name? He said he didn't know. Some random stranger gave him the name. And not only did he not know who gave him the name, Jason, but he didn't even know what the name Hotep meant. So again, Jason, these people, listen, I love my brother. I'm not castigating him. And I'm hoping and praying that he comes to Jesus Christ. When you're talking about Hotep, Broke Tip, Sweet Tip, and Q-Tip, Jason, Black Americans have become fools, wearing their dashikis, smelling like shea butter, but broke, busted, and disgusting, don't have enough credit to buy a toilet seat, Jason. This is not nation building. Hotep or Amenhotep is a name of a demon in Coptic demonology, but yet they want to run around with their dashikis, smelling like shea butter, broke, selling papers, fruit bags, and bean pies, and can't spell a word for the life of them, ugga bugga boo, and now their names is Hotep this, broke tip, sweet tip, and Q-tip. Oh, let me get off that. I don't mean to start preaching. So when we're talking about pawns in the game, I don't mean to get excited. The weaponization of Black trauma. So the New York Stock Exchange was then created by the deep state at what they called the Buttonwood Agreement. One of the founding fathers who would later on control Wall Street and the New York Stock Exchange was a man by the name of August Belmont Schurenberg. You and I had talked about him numerous of times. So August Belmont Schurenberg is one of the framers of the New York Cotton Exchange, which became the New York Stock Exchange. Now, Jason, I believe anyone that studies about August Belmont Schurenberg, he is the father of the Belmont Stakes. So he was a slave owner here in the state of New York who never lynched his slaves. Listen, Black folk, August Belmont Schurenberg would always burn his slaves at the stake. That's why the horse race is called the Belmont Stakes. which is the third leg of the Triple Crown. Jason, these are devils on the left. And he was also August Belmont Schoenberg, the chairman of the New York State chapter of the Democratic Party. So the New York Stock Exchange is built upon the demonic legacy of enslavement. And I'm not teaching victimhood. So, in order for us to understand Black pain and Black trauma is rooted in the North American Atlantic slave trade.
We got to let
Which
that
I'm
sink
not going to
in,
use
Bishop.
this. Go right ahead, Jason.
We've got to let that sink in. That's shocking to me. So this guy, he burned people at the stake, and he was the party chairman for the Democrat National Committee. I mean, Bishop, from where I sit, that's the type of thing where if I was involved with something that had that legacy, I would say, why don't we totally destroy this, change the name, turn our back on it, and just not ever think about it again and start something new. That's so bad. That's like if the Nazi Party still existed and they said, well, don't worry about all that stuff that Hitler did. We're still the Nazis.
See, if you stay right, Jason, I absolutely love you so much, Jason, because of our flow today. When you look at August Belmont Schoenberg, okay, he was the chairman of the Democratic Party, not just on the national scene, but within the New York State chapter of the Democratic Party. The Republican Party had nothing to do with the creation of slavery. The Republican Party had nothing to do with the creation of the KKK. I'll come back to that later on as we're talking about pawns in the game, the weaponization of Black trauma. Excellent link there, because Jason, if this was you and I, see, this is evil at its core. This is the very core that makes up the Democratic Party. Nancy Jezebel Pelosi, Chucky Schumer, okay, Adam Shifty Shift of little kids, KIDZ, and his best friend Ed Buck. Anyway, another topic for another day. They knelt down in the Capitol Rotunda some weeks ago, maybe a month or 2 months ago. And I'm thinking, why would Nancy Pelosi do that? Well, I looked at the Kente Clause, and I have a professor friend, Jason, out of Ghana, who said that, Bishop, do you know that Kente Clause was designed by the Ashanti tribe? Excellent link there, Jason. And you notice, Jason, most of these people, not all, but most of them had their left knee up and their right knee down. That is an Ashanti tribe ritual body position of selling souls to the market. So when the Ashanti tribe would sell our people into slavery, they would kneel down before the middle passage as Black men, women, and babies in chains were chained off and walked off into the Western society forever. This is a ritual. The Democratic Party is telling you and I that they don't love Black people. The racist is not the Republican Party. The racist is the Democratic Party, Jason, whom Malcolm X exposed in that 1963, interview that Malcolm gave at the University of California at Berkeley, stating that Black America will begin to wake up one day and to go back to their conservative roots. So what you're seeing there, Jason, these are statues. They're nothing but demons that Black folk brought over here, and now they're calling themselves Hotep, Hotep, Broke Tep, Sweet Tep, and Q-Tip. Wearing dashikis and smelling like shea butter and don't have a dime to their name. Jason, this is the condition of Black America. Not all, but a certain percentage. Excellent video there, Jason. When we're talking about pawns in the game, the weaponization of Black trauma. So then, now in 2019, now before we get to there's concerning Black spending, the New York Stock Exchange, their stock was not IBM, Coca-Cola, or Frito-Lay. The stock, Jason, was the indigenous African slave, okay? So the slaves were lined up all throughout Wall Street. That's why Wall Street is called Wall Street, because all of the banking houses and the insurance companies like New York Life, Aetna, CNA, they will line up slaves at the auction block called a draft. NBA draft, NFL draft, NHL draft, Major League Baseball draft. They're all slaves. So they were lined up from the East River and sold like cattle, like property, which then they had to go through what we call a combine, like the NFL combine you showed. So in other words, the strength, the dexterity of the slave was tested, how high he could jump, how fast he can run. Jason, nothing has changed. The only difference is today, the slave has become rich, but the slave is not put in a position to create generational wealth. He's rich, but he's not wealthy because Black people don't own anything. When we're talking about pawns in the game, the weaponization of Black trauma. Now, I believe 20,000 slaves are buried beneath the ground of Wall Street. So America has been built into a financial power on the backs of slaves. Now, I'm not teaching victimhood. What I'm teaching and what I'm trying to convey to your powerful listeners, this is the psyop of the present day psychology of a people who don't know who they're. And Jason, stay right there. Notice that symbol on the wall behind the people, right? Looks like a 666 sign. Notice that. So you have the two kind of backward sixes at the top and two backward sixes at the bottom. Everything is symbology. It's perception. When we're talking about pawns in the game, the weaponization of Black trauma. Now, Jason, this is going to blow your mind what I'm about to say. You already know this. In 2019, according to a report from the Selig Center for Economic Growth, okay? And I believe it was Bud Selig, all right, who's one of the creators of the Selig Center. Bud Selig was once the commissioner of Major League Baseball. So in the 2019 report of Black spending power, in 2019, Black America spent $1.4 trillion. And this is according to the Selig Center for Economic Growth. And they have projected the Black spending dollar to go from 1.4 trillion to 1.9 trillion by next year in 2021. $1.4 trillion, Jason, is higher than the gross domestic product of the nation of Mexico. Now think about that. The Black spending power of these pawns is worth more, Jason, than the gross domestic product of the GDP of Mexico. In 2019, the Black church, I hate to call it that, Jason, the Black church accumulated $500 billion. Where's that money going to? Yeah. It's not going to the masses of Black people within the communities. $500 billion.
Maybe Al
the Black
Sharpton.
church alone. Absolutely. So that's a major jump, Jason, from $420 billion in 2013 to $500 billion last year.
Sorry, Bishop. Now, this caught my eye immediately. So we've spoken about 33, we've spoken about these numbers that show up. 39 is to some people a representation of 33. It's also reminiscent of the Aleister Crowley 9-3 Society, which is his thelema that takes us to the symbology of that upside down manger and everything. Yes. So the fact that they're telling us that it's 3.9, it just seems maybe just a coincidence, but
Wow.
I don't
It's
know.
not a coincidence, my friend. And the late Kobe Bryant, if you could stay right there, Jason, on that link, and notice on the right hand side, the logo, the insignia that looks like the logo that was in the Star Trek movie series or
Oh yeah.
television series, right? And you know, Leonard Nimoy's character, Spock, will always put up, and Lord forgive me what I'm about to do, would always put up this hand sign, right? Okay. Now, I've been told that's a Hebraic sign, okay, that's connected to Kabbalistic teachings of invoking spirits. I didn't do that. I just want everyone to know that. I'm just giving them an example. But the Thelema Secret Society and the Theosophical Secret Society, um, through Miss Blavatsky, Helene Blavatsky, knew, the descendants of those who had created the Thelema Secret Society. Excellent. There you go, Jason. Which also represents the horns of Lucifer. Now, when Bishop put it up, Bishop Gaiters is not a part of the deep state. Stop. I'm getting all these crazy rumors about me, Jason, that Bishop is a part of the family of George Soros. Stupid, crazy stuff, as we're talking about pawns in the game. So then, that hand sign is a Kabbalistic teaching of invoking the underworld. So Leonard Nimoy, a great actor, probably one of the most intelligent actors that Hollywood ever produced, knew Jewish mysticism, what we call Kabbalistic teachings with a K or a Q. Okay. Now that a Thelema Secret Society with Aleister Crowley in connection to the Theosophical Secret Society with Helene Blavatsky, those two institutions, the Theosophical Secret Society, Helene Blavatsky, and the Thelema Secret Society with Aleister Crowley. Whether it's Theosophical or Thelema, Kobe Bryant was a ardent member, excellent link there, Jason, of both the Theosophical Secret Society and the Thelema or the Lema. Lema means the underworld in Persian, Jason. Oh, look at that, Jason. So all of this represents, okay, spirits of the underworld concerning Theosophical Society or Thelema Secret Society, which is mystic teachings, Jason, that goes back to the creation of the Kabbalah. Now, that's another topic for another day.
But just
And
real quick,
again,
Bishop,
these
notice
go right ahead.
the serpent eating its own tail.
Or the Ouroboros. The Ouroboros is a serpent eating its own tail. Yeah, Jason, if you can stay right there, because you hit another powerful nerve with me. Now, with going back to the Kobe Bryant series, okay, and he's called the Black Mamba. Now, going
Right.
back into Persian military history, it was the Persian soldier who would destroy a black mamba. And Jason, can you go back to that symbol of the Ouroboros, of the serpent eating its own tail? So, what the Persian soldier would do, excellent, Jason, would drink venom, the venom in the blood of a mamba, in order to replicate the
Wow.
character of that animal. So, Kobe Bryant, okay? Now, Kobe Bryant's one of his logos is similar to that, Jason, of the Ouroboros. Kobe Bryant was on his way to a gym that had that logo, okay? Or looking at the letter M for Mamba and the two snakes. Jason, Kobe Bryant was involved in the dark arts, which also cost him his life. He wrote books concerning Weisnard and concerning both the Thelema Secret Society and the Theosophical Secret Society, and teaching children how to invoke magic. Why? Because Kobe Bryant was a witch. I'm sorry, there's going to be black people who's going to get upset. That's what he was. Okay, when we're talking about pawns in the game, the weaponization of black trauma. But notice the ankh in the middle, Jason. Okay, That is the demon goddess of fertility. Okay. This is what I was telling the host who calls himself Hotep concerning. He asked me, was the Ankh demonic? I said yes, and he was laughing. You see, our people are manipulated. Any person, a man, anytime a person, a man or a woman, changes their name to Hotep, Cryptep, Broke Tip, Sweet Tip, or Q-Tip, it's all trauma based, Jason. It's trauma programming. Okay. They don't have a job, but yet they're singing "We Shall Overcome," which is a song out of the Soviet Union, getting their hair done in the form of an ankh, okay? And then wearing dashikis and smelling like shea butter, buying shea butter from a company that's not owned by Black people. Oh, let me get off of that. See, this is pawns in the game, the weaponization of Black trauma. Excellent link there, Jason. And notice the swastika.
Yes.
The Third Reich did not create that, Jason. That comes out of the religion of Krishna or Indian mysticism, Jason. Adolf Hitler knew Indian mysticism in the religion of Krishna, which is a counterfeit form of the name of Jesus. Anything God has in truth, Jesus, there's a counterfeit by Satan, darkness, okay?
And Bishop, what's this on top with this 30?
That's a Sanskrit letter, Jason, within Hinduism. Now, there's going to be people saying, well, no, Bishop, that they always try to correct me, but they never bring any proof, Jason. That's a Sanskrit letter, meaning invoking the unknown. So you invoke the unknown through the swastika, which is not a Germanic title or symbol. It is an Indian symbol wrapped up in Indian mysticism. Nothing against my Indian brothers and sisters. It's wrapped up within the Sanskrit, within the Indian doctrine or their book or Bible called the Veda, right? Capital Veda. So the symbol at the top is not only a Sanskrit symbol, but it's the symbol within the Veda, okay, signifying the invoking of the underworld through the swastika in connection to the six-pointed hexagram, the so-called Star of David with the Ankh in the middle, and with the Ouroboros serpent biting its own tip. Now, Jason, on my global masterclass on last night or yesterday, I was saying about the words, Jason. There are three words that God had me to expose in connection to the symbol that you're showing there. Okay, this word genius. Genius is a Latin word meaning genie, to jinx, to hex. Then you have a second word, Jason, besides genius. That is the word prodigy. The word prodigy, Jason, it means to contact the underworld. It also means to invoke a hex, a hexagram, a pentagram, okay? That's prodigy, okay? Which took us to a third word called savant, capital S-A-V-A-N-T. Savant, Jason, doesn't mean intelligence or intelligentsia. Savant means serpentine wisdom, or the wisdom of the Ouroboros. Why would Kobe Bryant always suck sweat from his jersey? Jason, if you can find that on Google Images of Kobe Bryant would suck the sweat from his jersey. Kobe Bryant had the knowledge of not just Ouroboros, of a serpent eating his own tail, but Kobe Bryant became, there you go, Black Mamba. Why? Because Kobe Bryant, became the replication of what the Persian military industrial complex centuries ago did. Kobe, after that rape case, became a totally different person. In other words, Jason what I'm saying, when I'm going to say, this is going to blow your mind. Kobe Bryant became Ouroboros. In other words, Kobe Bryant ate his enemies by eating himself. Okay, he became the replication of a genius, a prodigy, and a savant. I'm going to say this to the church, and a lot of pastors are going to get upset, Jason. The word savant also means sermonic or sermon. That word sermon is not in the Bible. That term sermonic or sermon came up out of the Vatican. And the term sermon also is connected to the word semen. Excuse my French, Jason. This is where we get the term seminary or seminary.
Huh.
So words like sermon or seminary are not in the Word of God. They have become Vaticanized out from the Vatican. So this is pawns. Jesus never preached a sermon. Jesus preached the gospel, but the term sermon was added to the church. Why? Because Constantine legalized the Christian faith in 313 AD to become Christianity. He wanted to Vaticanize or to Anachonize the church. So the terms genius, prodigy, and savant are terms that are connected to hexing, cursing, spelling. I'm spelling this word, spell. I'm writing in cursive, a curse.
Huh.
The entire global vocabulary, Jason, must be overhauled because all of these words are intertwined into each other. That is producing curses and jinxes and hexes upon humanity, and we don't even know it. Like you said last week, we're all pawns in the game. The
One other thing,
weaponization
Bishop,
of
before we
Trump.
get too far away from
Yes, sir.
Prodigy, I don't know if you're aware of this, but back in the day, before really the internet was too accessible, you could get a phone modem and call up places like AOL, and there was one called Genie from General Electric, GENIE,
Yes.
and then the most popular one for a while was Prodigy. And there was this whole thing
Oh,
where, like, you didn't really have web pages, but you could go on these different services and they were kind of enclosed to themselves. And there was a chat room for investors on Prodigy where some negative but true information about the company Stratton Oakmont came out. And this is the company that movie Wolf of Wall Street was all about. I've been searching while you were speaking there to try and see if Jeffrey Steibel was involved with this in any way. I can't find any direct links, but I wanted to mention it to our viewers because I know that people will probably look into this further, but that's an interesting occurrence of the word prodigy.
Jason, again, that word prodigy in connection to genius, prodigy, and savant. All three words also mean voodoo, hoodoo, taboo, from whence we get the term Yahoo. Yahoo in witchcraft is connected to voodoo, hoodoo, taboo. The definition of Yahoo is a uncivilized, okay, uncultivated beast who is a hybrid, who is brutish. This is where we get the term British. Nothing against my English brothers and sisters. So the term British, its origin is from the word brute, brute beast, British. So the term British is not the same as the term England or the crown. British, brute. So the beast there is Ouroboros. That's the deep state, Jason. So the deep state, they eat their own. Kobe Bryant, they eat their own Chadwick Boseman. Now, Jason, if you could stay right there as a side point, Jason, remember Louise Huebner, this witch, right? Who had went to the corner of Avalon Boulevard and 116th Street in Watts a month before the Watts riots took place between the 11th of August to the 16th of August in 1965. This term, Avalon, Jason, then becomes the word Avon. So Avalon or Avon, Avon is a Greek term meaning corruption. Excellent link there, Jason. When you take the word Avon and then rabbinically write it from right to left, you get the term Nova or Novosa, from which we get the term anorexia novosa, Jason. Now, which is a eating disorder. Ouroboros, the snake eating its own tail. Anyone can look up Kobe Bryant's Mamba Academy logo. Has the letter M, okay, which is what? The 13th letter of the alphabet. 13 degrees within the Masonic order, the first 13 degrees that you can see on the back of the $1 bill, which is the pyramid, which has 13 steps or levels of bricks that goes an excellent length there, Jason. Kobe wore the number 33 degrees. And the entire life of Kobe Bryant was already a pattern. He was going to die, whether or not he obeyed the deep state or not. Now, Jason, there is another term that people use in concert connection to pawns in their game, the weaponization of Black trauma. That is a word called karma, okay? Karma. Now, the term karma, Jason, when interpreted in Persian, reveals the term karmic, Karmic, which then becomes a Coptic word, Kemetic. Listen, Black people. So karma, karmic, Kemetic, hotep, broke tip, sweet tip, Q-tip, dashiki, okay? The Ankh, Kemetic, or which becomes kinetic or kinesius, manipulation. So all of your listeners, they have to stop saying these words, okay? Genius, prodigy, and savant, including karma.
But what about Opal Comedy?
What's that, Jason?
What about Opal Comedy? That's her name. Comedy.
Yes, same thing. Yeah. Oh my God. Oh, Jason. Jason, I didn't even know that. Opal Tometi.
Tometi.
Okay.
Tometi.
Tometi.
I thought it was
yes, that's
Comedy.
it. Tometi.
It's close.
In other words, Tometi it's an offshoot. Words of all, or what we call the offspring of its origin. Excellent, Jason. Karmic, okay, Kemetic, Tometi, from which we get the term kinesius, like telekinesis, omnikinesis, or that which is manipulation. So karma, Jason, then is also becomes a Japanese word called Shinsekai. Allow me to spell that. Shin, then space Sekai. Shinsekai is a Japanese word. It means the immune system attacking itself. In other words, when a person says karma, okay, it causes what they call in Japanese mysticism, the demon called Hashimoto Applebaum syndrome. Hashimoto, Hashimoto, Applebaum, Applebaum syndrome. Well, what does karma have anything to do with Hashimoto Applebaum syndrome? It's when through karma that these demons are released, and this is in Japanese demonology. When the person says karma, okay, it releases, okay, the body to attack itself. In other words, the immune system of the individual attacks itself, beginning with one's thyroid. This is where we get the term, Jason, android, like for phone. So the Hashimoto, Applebaum syndrome, that's connected kinetically to the word karma. So people stop saying the word karma as we're talking about pawns in the game, the weaponization of Black trauma. And Jason, in connection to the word karma, getting back to genius, the term genius not only means genie, but it's the name of a household spirit or demon, Jason, which is called an imaginary friend. So a child grows up with an imaginary friend. Now, according to demonology, that's a demon. Genie, imaginary friend, house spirit or demon, genie, genius. So people stop saying genius, prodigy, and savant. Another term that we use in connection to peace is this term tranquility. Now, somebody said, well, Bishop, what does this have to do with the plight of Black America? Glad you asked. The term tranquility, Jason, is the acronym or the offspring of the term tranquilizer. So tranquility is the offspring of its origin word or word through of origination of tranquilizer. So what Black people are going through today, not all, but a certain percentage, when they see a Benjamin Crump and Reverend Al Vitamin B Deficient Sharpton, Louis Farrakhan, Bean Pie Farrakhan, and Jesse Jackson. These are race pimps, Jason. So they're bringing a counterfeit form of peace, what we call tranquility, when in actuality, Black America has only been tranquilized through problem reaction solution, non-problem reaction solution based upon the fallacy of skin color.
Bishop,
So
I've got to point something out for
tranquility.
you here. Sorry
Go
to
right ahead.
interrupt. So we've got, by sheer luck, an image. Well, not luck, I was looking for it, but Benjamin Crump, Al Sharpton, and Jesse Jackson out of focus in the background. Now, immediately what I noticed, Bishop, is that Jesse Jackson's tie is not tied. Benjamin Crump a little bit, but I don't know if you're aware of this, but Ole Damagard told me that when Martin Luther King was assassinated, it was not whatever the guy they said it was. What's his name? Something Ray? Earl Ray? James Earl Ray.
James Earl Ray, yes.
Was not him. According to Ole, he was assassinated by the CIA and that Jesse Jackson took part in it.
Yes.
And the racists that were engaging in the murder said to Jesse Jackson that they cannot tell one Black man from another. So what they instructed him to do was don't wear a tie and they'll only shoot at Black guys wearing ties. And there was allegedly an argument between Martin Luther King and Jesse Jackson because he said, Jesse, what are you doing? We're going to dinner. Go put on a tie. And Jesse Jackson said no. And here he is again, sort of symbolically depicted without the tie.
See, the great Dr. Steve Coakley, the late Professor Steve Coakley, I met him one time, oh my God, maybe in 1995 in Chicago, okay? And if he was alive today, he wouldn't even remember me, okay? But the great Dr. Steve Coakley, okay, was the first one to expose about the boule. It was not Bishop Gaiters. It was Professor Dr. Steve Coakley, who is the pioneer of truther who exposed not only the boule, but the Jesse Jackson conspiracy. And there you go, no tie. See, Jesse Jackson in his Push Rainbow Coalition is the creation of the CIA, Jason, because the CIA had blackmailed Jesse Jackson, okay? And because Jesse Jackson was embezzling millions of dollars, okay? This is like 10 years after Dr. King's assassination. But getting back to the assassination, So then Dr. King was not supposed to be on the third floor, Jason. He was supposed to be on the first floor. Jesse
Right.
Jackson changed the room not once, but twice. Why? Because Jesse Jackson was instructed by the deep state to make sure Dr. King was on the third floor so that the assassins can have a better shot at him. Now,
Right.
one of Dr. King's so-called friends, Reverend Billy Cowles, the late Reverend Billy Cowles, Kyles, can be seen on YouTube, Jason, stating that he was instructed to get out of the way so that the assassins can have a clean shot at Dr. King. It's on a video.
Yeah.
And not too long after that, they killed Billy Cowles. Jason, in other words, yes. So then, really, Reverend Billy Cowles, Boule, okay, Al Sharpton, Boule, Andrew Young, Boule, these are Boules that had Dr. King killed. Why? Because Dr. King did not want to be a pawn, okay, in the hands of the deep state. Now, as long as Dr. King was singing "We Shall Overcome" and everyone holding hands and singing bombs, and kumbayas, he wasn't a threat. But when Dr. King began to talk about the war in Vietnam, now you're talking about deep state money. Dr. King left the Boule a month before his assassination. I'm so happy, Jason, that you brought up concerning Jesse Jackson, because Jesse Jackson was complicit in the assassination of Dr. King.
I agree.
And if I'm Donald Trump, I will look into this and have Jesse Jackson arrested.
And one
I
last
don't
thing
know
on
if
this
that will ever
topic.
happen. What's
No,
go
I don't
ahead,
think so.
Jason?
Well, one last thing, I just wanted to show this. This was a strange but common practice in the 1960s if you were a major political leader who was assassinated, like Martin Luther King or JFK. They didn't show photos from the autopsy, but this is a charcoal illustration of Martin Luther King. And do you recognize this person on the left?
Oh, what's his name, Jason? Dr. Baden? Is that him?
It is Dr. Baden, the same guy who did the autopsy for Jeffrey Epstein. I had the other image of him here that I lost. I have no issue with Dr. Michael Baden, but it is strange that he seems to show up at so many of these. I mean, there's just not that many celebrity coroners, and he's one of them.
See, Jason, Dr. Michael Baden is a deep state doctor. He shows up on the scene, hired by Black families, just like Benjamin Crump. These people are part of the deep state, where the deep state uses Black pawns in the game to manipulate the emotion of Black people and to weaponize Black trauma so that the deep state can keep, Jason, Black America in a state of emancipation. They don't want people to be free, Jason. It's not about liberating them. And Black people, they have to stop looking at the deep state as some type of liberator, Jason, as we're talking about, okay, pawns in the game. Now, there is a man, Jason, by the name of Edward Bennett Williams, okay? Now, this man, and I'm so happy, Jason, that you brought up concerning Jesse Jackson's connection to Dr. King's death. Edward Bennett Williams, a high-powered attorney and former owner, the late Edward Bennett Williams, the former owner of the Baltimore Orioles, had helped cover up, Jason, the assassination of Dr. King. Let me say this again. So it was Edward Bennett Williams, the former owner of the Baltimore Orioles. His connection in helping Jesse Jackson not only to carry out the assassination at a lower level of Dr. King, but also carried out the death of Dr. King at the hospital. Dr. King was not initially killed by the shot, Jason. Remember, you and I talked about that some months ago.
Yep.
Dr. King was smothered by a doctor at a particular hospital.
Oh, is it this guy?
According to the testimony of nurses. Edward Bennett Williams was involved because he
Wow.
paid all the nurses to keep their mouth shut and the doctor. Edward Bennett Williams was a high class attorney who went on to own the Baltimore Orioles, who went on, Jason, to cover up the Dr. King assassination. Oh, this is mine. These are pawns in the game, the weaponization of Black trauma. Now, Jason, give me a few minutes and then
Yeah.
we're going to end it here today. If you see anything, jump right in. This Edward Bennett Williams also got Reverend Jackson out of a financial jail. Jesse Jackson was being investigated, Jason, in 1975 for embezzling millions of dollars from his organization. Okay, this organization, okay, Operation Rainbow Push. So he embezzled millions of dollars, but it was Edward Bennett Williams who got him out of that mess. And now Jesse Jackson, up until the death of Edward Bennett Williams, was beholden to the Williams family. Oh, Jason, this is deep. So this is what Dr. Steve Coakley was talking about. Then they took out Dr. Steve Coakley. Okay? So we're talking about pawns in the game, the weaponization of Black trauma. Jason, the Black church brought in $500 billion, okay, last year. Where's the money going to, Jason? It's going in the hands of pastors and office personnel. But there's nothing wrong with it. But Jason, that money is supposed to be going to the masses of the people.
Bishop, sorry to interrupt. Look at the list of clients this guy has as an attorney. This is astounding. This is a Washington Post article saying one of the first clients for whom he won acquittal was a 16-year-old black girl who had fatally stabbed her boyfriend. I wonder who the boyfriend was. Over the next half century, a variety of others would turn to this guy, Joseph McCarthy, Teamster boss Jimmy Hoffa, Frank Costello, Lyndon Johnson's aide, Bobby Baker, who was at the center of a scandal that many allege was one of the motivating factors for LBJ to participate in the JFK assassination, Frank Sinatra, a Soviet spy, Armand Hammer, who came up in my conversation with Diana West. This is an amazing... Hugh Hefner.
Yes. He represents deep state devils. You said Armand Hammer. Armie Hammer is an actor in Hollywood. I believe he's the great-great-grandson.
Related, yes.
It's related. And he is supporting Black Lives Matter. Okay?
Who's Marvin Davis? You've told me about him. Or maybe Charles told me about him. Marvin Davis? Maybe Charles Ortel told me about him. John Hinckley. John Hinckley, who tried to kill Reagan, and Jesse Jackson. What a list.
And Edward Bennett Williams also represented the Hollywood music mogul Clyde Davis.
Wow.
Clyde Davis was represented by Edward Bennett Williams up until 1980. Okay? 8 years before the death of Edward Bennett Williams. Edward Bennett Williams is the white Benjamin Crump. Benjamin Crump is the black Edward Bennett Williams. These are fixers, Jason. There's a movie, a TV movie I want you guys to look up called The Fixer, okay? And I'm trying to remember the guy's name. He's an actor, John, I can't remember his name. Well, his daughter was formerly married to Brad Pitt, okay? And he's an ardent President Trump supporter.
John Voight.
John Voight, yes, thank you, John Voight. John Voight played a fixer. I mean, the movie was called The Fixer. It talks about the life of Edward Bennett Williams. He would cover up murders. And I believe Samuel Jackson played a similar part in another movie. These are fixers, Jason. They cover up. They set people up, okay? In other words, let's say Mr. Smith goes to bed with this woman. He wakes up the next day, groggy, but a woman is murdered in his bed. He didn't kill her. They set him up. This is what Edward Bennett Williams did. He would set up people to blackmail them, Jason, of something that they didn't even do in order to control them or to emancipate them, that we call manumission. So Edward Bennett Williams was a manumissionist. He was an emancipator. There you go, Jason. A controller. Okay. John Voight played the life of Edward Bennett Williams. Okay. Under a different name in the movie, under a different location. In the movie, it's out of Chicago. Edward Bennett Williams was a powerful person, Jason, who was also involved in the JFK assassination, along with H.L. Hunt. H.L. Hunt, okay, Edward Bennett Williams are part of this Ouroboros. They eat their young, Jason. In other words, Black people are at the bottom of the pyramid, okay? When we're talking about pawns in the game, the weaponization of Black trauma. Jason, give me a couple of minutes. This is going to blow your mind right here. That's an excellent link concerning Edward Bennett Williams. And maybe you and I have to do a series on the assassination of Dr. King one day. Half, and you and I had talked about the athletic shoe industrial complex. Half of Nike's global sales is from the Black diaspora. Half of Nike's global sales. Not just Nike, but Adidas and Puma. Half of their global sales of Nike, Adidas, and Puma depends upon Black money, Jason. In other words, Nike, Adidas, and Puma, they exploit the low self-esteem of a people who don't know who they are. In other words, they both manipulate and weaponize the low self-esteem of Black people against themselves, Jason. And my friend, this gets deeper here. As we're bringing this in today concerning pawns in the game, the weaponization of Black trauma. Now, if you and I go back into history, my friend, concerning the creation of the athletic tennis shoe. Now, there were what we call slave shoes, okay? Now, if you can type in, Jason, slave shoes, the real behind Adidas's big ops, capital O, then small o, P-S. Slave shoes, the real behind Adidas's big ops, OOPS. It was an op-ed on the 23rd of June, 2012, okay? So it shows that Adidas, Jason, going back 20 years, there you go, they created a tennis shoe.
Wow, that's real?
Sneaker.
Holy crap.
In the form of a slave shoe.
That's idiotic.
It's idiotic. And you had Black men and women, teenagers buying it.
Wow.
And of course, because of the uproar of the slave shoe, or what they call the shackle shoe, Adidas got rid of that particular shoe. And Jason, as you go down further, you'll see a little teddy bear, a demon teddy bear. Wow. It was called My Pet Monster Doll. Most of Black families purchased that doll. Why? The psyop, Jason, of self-hate concerning pawns in the game, the weaponization of Black trauma. Quickly, it gets deeper here. So going back in the 1500s, my friend, here's a word called sneakin', capital S-N-I-C-A-N. Sneakin' becomes the word, Jason, sneaker, like for tennis shoe. So the origin of the athletic shoe industrial complex on a global scale goes back as early as the 1500s during the global slave trade. The word sneakin', S-N-I-C-A, means to creep, to crawl, or to change someone. So sneakin', S-N-I-C-A-N, becomes the word sleekin', S-L-I-C-A-N. And there is a song, a lyric, Jason, called Sleekin', S-L-I, okay, S-L-I-N-C-A-N, or Sneakin'. It's by a group called Solo, capital S-O-W-U-L-O. Sleekin', sneakin'. So in other words, Jason, the term sneaking not only means to creep, to crawl, to chain, but it means also the word sunken ship. Wait a minute now. Now, remember some weeks ago, I said to your powerful listeners that the sole of the tennis shoe is shaped like the sole of the foundation of a slave ship. So the term sneaking, I'm talking about these pawns in the game, the weaponization of Black trauma, where our pain and our trauma and low self-esteem is being manipulated by the athletic shoe industrial complex. So the word sneaking, S-N-I-C-A-N, becomes sleekin, S-L-I-C-A-N, which means sunken slave ship or sunken ship. So sneaking becomes sneaker, or the word plimsoll, capital P-L-I-M-S-O-L-L. A plimsoll was a part of a slave ship that guided the ship wherever the master wanted them to go. Jason, this is emancipation, not liberation. So sneaking, sleeking, sneaker, sunken slave ship, Jason. To creep, to crawl, to sneak. So Jason, notice this term sneaking also means in German snake or Ouroboros, the symbol that you showed about 10 minutes ago. Now, there was, Jason, a former slave owner by the name of Charles Goodyear, the man who created the Goodyear Corporation, the tire company. Yes, yep. Charles Goodyear, with the financial backing of the Roxbury, India Rubber Company, created the first athletic shoe, which they call the plimsoll or sneaker. Now, according to the book, Jason, The Confessions of Nat Turner by William Styron, capital S-T-Y-R-O-N, he says, according to that powerful book, The Confessions of Nat Turner. Now, as a side note, Nat Turner was a former slave, born in 1800, died in 1831. He was murdered, okay? His slave owner was a young 19-year-old kid by the name of Judah Philip Benjamin. Judah Philip Benjamin, who would go on to create the KKK in 1865 in Pulaski, Tennessee. Jason, listen, this is mind-blowing here. Judah Philip Benjamin, okay, at the age of 19, almost 20, had owned Nat Turner in the Hamptons. It was this same Nat Turner who was instructed by Judah Philip Benjamin, according to Dr. Kyle Baker in his book, Nat Turner. And also according to The Fires of Jubilee, Nat Turner's Fierce Rebellion by Dr. Stephen B. Oates. These authors said it was Judah Philip Benjamin who not only owned Nat Turner, but instructed Nat Turner to go throughout the Hamptons killing white people. Why? To kill off the competition. Jason, this is demonic, okay? And Edward Bennett Williams comes in the bloodline of Charles Goodyear. That's another topic for another day. They're all related, Jason. So Charles Goodyear, who had designed, Jason, the athletic shoe called the sneaker. So it was Judah Philip Benjamin, okay, who would also create, Jason, the sneaker called the plimsoll shoe, designed for slaves so that slaves could wear them to sneak around to other plantations to kill other plantation owners. Wow. So that plantation owner could steal their slaves. That's the origin of the sneaker because the sneaker was made, Jason, through a process called vulcanization. Vulcanization is the process where Charles Goodyear, Judah Philip Benjamin would create the shoe out of both rubber and cloth. They would seal cloth to rubber to fit the feet of the slave so that the slave could sneak to the other plantation to kill the plantation owner so that Judah Philip Benjamin could steal their slaves. This is according to Nat Turner, okay? In the book Nat Turner, powerful book, Jason, okay, by Dr. Kyle Baker in The Fires of Jubilee. Nat Turner's Fierce Rebellion by Stephen B. Oates. So,
But sorry, Bishop.
Philip, go ahead.
Before we go off of the vulcanization of rubber shoes, is it a coincidence that Leonard Nimoy, who we were talking about earlier today, is a Vulcan from a fictional planet on Star Trek?
Oh, Jason. Oh man, I love the way you think, Jason. You don't miss nothing, my friend. Again, it's all related. The vulcanization, yes. Hand sign symbol of Spock, Leonard Nimoy. Okay, a vulcanization. It is the Vulcan that is worshipped as a goddess in Egyptian demonology. And the plumb sole of a shoe is made through what they call the vulcanization processing of creating the rubber in connection to the cloth. They would take cloth and seal it with a sealant to rubber to put it on the feet of the slave, now called the National Basketball Association. So, Jason, excellent point there, Jason, concerning Leonard Nimoy being a vulcanization. So, Charles Goodyear and the vulcanization of rubber, okay? If you get an opportunity, type in Charles Goodyear and the vulcanization of rubber, okay? It's on ConnecticutHistory.org, an op-ed on the 29th of December, 2014, okay? So then the shoe company, okay, of the Goodyear company designed the sneaking shoe called the sneaker. Now, Jason, if you also get an opportunity, excellent link, type in, it's in the bag, Black consumers' path to purchase. I'm going to come back to the athletic shoe here in a minute. Okay, so it's in the bag, Black consumers' path to purchase. I'm talking about Pawns in the Game, the weaponization of Black trauma. According to the Nielsen Company, they did a report back in 2019. We're going to come back to the athletic shoe industrial complex that's going to blow your people's minds. Black people spent $573.6 million in 2019 on beauty and grooming products, even more than white people. In other words, and I'm not saying that the person should not look good, but they exploit, Jason, our pain and our trauma. 19%, notice. So beauty, Black America spent $573.6 million, which is 19% higher, Jason, than all of the demographics combined. 63% of Black America spent their money at Saks Fifth Avenue, which the Saks company traded slaves going back to the 1800s on Wall Street.
Wow.
Black people spent 45% of Black America spent millions of dollars on clothing at Neiman Marcus. The Neiman Marcus bloodline owned slaves on Wall Street going back to the 1800s. That's more than 52%, Jason, of Black America buys products for self-esteem. 24% of the black dollar is spent at Bloomingdale's, who were indirectly involved in the transatlantic slave trade. In other words, Jason, now the slave has been manumissioned to buy products from their former slave masters.
And Bishop, I've just found this ad that's talking
Ooh.
about a slave sale. Look at the number of men they're offering. 39.
Oh my. Oh my. Did that number come up earlier, Jason? Okay.
Yeah, the
Oh my.
9-3 Society.
It all ties into
David and
black
John
trauma.
Dees.
What was
John
that,
D.
Jason?
The people selling it are selling them. David and
Yes.
John Dees.
John D. Exactly. These are the people. When you're talking about the NFL Combine, NBA, Major League Baseball, NHL, nothing has changed. The only difference is the slave is not black. It's everyone. Like you say, Jason, all of us are pawns in the game. 5 excellent picture there, Jason. Excellent. If you see anything, jump right in. 5 of the largest non-black landowners. I want everyone to hear me. 5 of the largest non-black landowners in the United States own more land, Jason, than all of Black America combined. The average Black family would need 228 years to build wealth of a non-Black family today. In other words, Jason, there's a difference between rich versus being wealthy. Black people don't know anything about generational wealth, by and large. So the Black American family, on the average, we have 1 cent for every dollar that's compared to a non-Black family. That's also called financial balkanization, Jason, where the Black dollar doesn't stay in the Black community. The Black dollar moves out of the Black community at a faster rate compared to the white dollar, to the Latino dollar, and to the Asian dollar. Why? Because of the psychology of self-hate. That our self-worth is in a pair of Air Jordans, sneakers, going back to Nat Turner, who wore those in order to kill other slave masters at the behest of his slave master, Judah Philip Benjamin, who created the KKK in 1865. And so the sneakers, getting back to the sneakers now, Jason. There's a brand of shoe, Jason, called Brand Kids, KEDS. But the original name was called PEDS, PEDS, which is the acronym for pedophilia. So the Brand Kids. So also the kid or the athletic shoe was designed for children as well during the slave trade. It's all of what we're going through now originated during slavery. I'm not teaching victimhood. I am just revealing the condition of our people who, and by and large, don't know who they are concerning pawns in the game, the weaponization of Black trauma. So there's a company, Jason. Now, as a side point, there's a company called Reebok. It is a British company. Now, the original wordage of Reebok was capital RHEBOK, which is a Afrikaans spelling or pronunciation. RHEBOK. It normally means an African antelope. It represents a combined slave. Reebok, or the redesign of a slave who is compared to an antelope. So
Bishop,
Reebok,
they have Cardi B.
R-H-E-B, that's it. Cardi B, yes.
With these
She's
crazy
a slave.
fingernails.
Jason, she's a slave. Black people, by and large, in Hollywood, are forced to have a nickname. 50 Cent, quarter, nickel, penny. Ice T, Ice Cube, Ice Tray, Pitbull, Little Bow Wow, Cardi B, Pitbull, Little Kitten. Why? Because the system looks at us as non-human. Why? Pawns in the game, the weaponization of Black trauma. So Reebok, excellent link there, Jason. Reebok, capital RHEBOK. Re means agility, Bok means strength. The agility of and the strength of a combine to see how fast you can run, how high you can jump. This is called Reebok, which was spelled later differently to capital R-E-E, Bok, the redesign of a slave. Jason, one more link and we're done here today. Please type in LeBron James Nike shoe deal compared to Kobe Bryant, Kevin Durant, Michael Jordan. LeBron James Nike shoe deal compared to Kobe Bryant, Kevin Durant, Michael Jordan. That's on, there you go. That's on clutchpoints.com. So those men that you see, they're slaves, Jason. They are what we call sneakers, sneaking from plantation to plantation. Kobe wanted to leave the plantation. Now, according to the 1977 song, Hotel California, okay, by the Eagles, you can check out at any time, but you can't leave. So on that link there, Jason, LeBron James knew that Kobe Bryant would die. And people have been begging me, Jason, to do a volume 11 concerning Kobe Bryant, a Luciferian project completed in connection to LeBron James.
Yeah.
LeBron James knew that Kobe was going to die. So when LeBron James passed Kobe for a third time on the all-time NBA scoring list, the next day Kobe gets taken out. But LeBron James is a slave. Kobe Bryant was a slave. Kevin Durant is a slave. Michael Jordan is a slave. These are Reeboks who have been vulcanized to stay on an upgraded plantation in order to keep the system intact. And the only reason why the system on the left through the American sports industrial complex is alive and well today because of the ignorance of Black people. Not all of us, but those on the plantation. Now, remember, Jason, the Hong Kong protesters, a year or two ago, year and a half ago?
Yeah.
Kobe Bryant spoke on behalf of the protesters, but it was LeBron James who spoke against the protesters. Why? Because LeBron James is in the pocket of the Chinese government. It's all about money. Who was it? Daryl Morley, the general manager and president of basketball operations for the Houston Rockets, I don't know if he still is, put up a tweet in support of the Hong Kong protesters.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Here comes President Xi Jinping, okay? So excellent link there, Jason. So the athletic shoe, sneaker, sneaking, sleeking, sunken slave ship represents LeBron James, who has a lifetime contract of enslavement to Nike. Nike would never allow Michael Jordan or LeBron James to own the company. You can only be a billionaire, but you can never own anything. Jason, that's not liberation, that's emancipation. Those four men, including the late Kobe Bryant, were slaves. They're slaves, Jason. In my conclusion, excellent link there, Jason, concerning not just Kobe Bryant, a Luciferian project completed, in connection to what we've been talking about for the past 2 to 3 weeks concerning PAWNS closing again, the weaponization of Black trauma, 5 minutes, and we're out of here. So then remember, going back to housing, in 1926, Jason, my friend, there was a U.S. Supreme Court decision. In 1926, there was a U.S. Supreme Court decision of Corrigan versus Buckley, where because of that Supreme Court decision in 1926 of Corrigan versus Buckley, it validated the racist concept of housing covenants. Going back to the 1920s in Los Angeles, discriminating against people of color of owning any homes. So housing covenants today is called gentrification, Jason. Now remember, because of the Watts riots, and then 27 years later, on the corner of Normandy and Florence, this same witch, Louise Eubner, in her book, okay, of Witchcraft for All, she talks about the Watts riots on the 11th of August to the 16th of August, from August 11th to the 16th of August in 1965, where she went on the corner of Avalon Boulevard and 116th Street to curse it, like she did 27 years later in South Central, taking a group of Black witches out of Baltimore, Jason, that cursed South Central on the corner of Florence and Normandy. A month later, here comes the riots in South Central, which was a pretext for the deep state to enact gentrification. In other words, the government could not legally go in and destroy Black homes. So they had to create a problem reaction solution, okay, by setting now the cops should have been sent away for years. I have no problem with that. But Jason, George Holliday, the man that was videotaping Rodney King, was paid $250,000 by the city of Los Angeles, the liberal power structure in LA, including with the LAPD, of doctoring the film to make it look like it was the cops who initiated the beating, but not Rodney King. Jason, we're being exploited. Now, again, those cops should have been sent away forever. I have no problem with that. But Jason,
I got a quick question, Bishop.
Go right ahead.
Because
yes, sir.
Compton in the early 1990s was a very rough neighborhood.
Woo.
And I mean, it's mostly Black. What was this guy doing there with a video camera?
See, you see, Jason, George Holliday is an agent provocateur.
Yeah.
He was hired by the deep state to videotape Rodney King and to splice up, to give that film to the city of Los Angeles, to doctor that film, to cover the fact that it was Rodney King who initiated the beating. Now, the cops should have been sent away. I have no problem. See, Jason, I don't like being lied to. Is that the deep state weaponized the beating of Rodney King to make it look like it was the cops who initiated the beating. Just like the weaponization of the, Hernandez brothers during that case?
Menendez,
thank you. The Menendez brothers. And being represented by this Leslie Aberson, who was related to the judge by blood. So when I'm saying the entire city of Los Angeles is nothing, Jason, but an act. It's a show. It's one corrupted institution where Rodney King was used by the deep state to begin the process of having Black folk to react to something that they didn't know the totality of the truth of what happened that night. George Holliday was hired. Why is he in Compton? Jason, there is a
Sorry,
book.
we're being informed I've got it wrong. The beating was not in Compton. I don't know enough about those details. Yeah, I don't want to go off track. Sorry.
I know that. But Compton is connected to South Central and Watts. And Jason, what you just said concerning, okay, and we talked about this last week, how the deep state can manipulate footage. And now this book here, Louise Humner's book, I believe in 1971, Witchcraft for All, and then the old first edition of that book has a mermaid, half woman, half fish, that represents the logo on the Starbucks coffee cup. Another topic for another day. But also, Jason, this same witch, 27 years later, on the corner of Florence and Normandy, had cursed South Central. Now, look, there's a book, Jason, called Witches of Watts. Witches of Watts by Christina Williams. Now, is she related to Edward Bennett Williams? We don't know. So, Christina Williams is more likely a woman of color, wrote this book called Witches of Watts, okay? She begins to say in chapter 3 that witches were birthed after the Watts riots because of what Louise Humner did to Watts as far as putting curses a month before the Watts riots in March of 65, a month before, the July of 65, okay? A month before the Watts riots on the 11th of August to the 16th of August in 1965. So the witches of Watts. Now take the letter W for Watts and turn it upside down. You get an Egyptian word, Mats, capital M-A-T-T-S, which produces an acronym of the term Maat, capital M-A-A-T, which in Coptic Egyptian demonology is a high-level principality demon. Black people are being deceived through religion, through the Coptic religion of demonology, or Mats or Mayat. Jason, this is heavy. And as a side note before we sign off today concerning pawns in the game, the weaponization of Black trauma. The home address of the late Louise Humner was 2727, get this, Jason, Avalon Boulevard in Carlsbad, California. Avalon Boulevard is the same name as Avalon Boulevard in 116th Street that she cursed a month before the Watts riots in 1965. Oh, Jason, nothing is by accident, and that is the end of volume 3, my friend, of Pawns in the Game, the weaponization of Black trauma. My friend, this was mind-blowing information for your listeners today, and I thank you, sir.
Absolutely, Bishop. We've been through so many things. It's amazing. The Ouroboros, it came up somewhere else recently with the snake eating its tail. We always touch on so many different things. I hope that people will enjoy reviewing the video, maybe even numerous times. And Bishop, I always like to remind everybody that they can support the global spiritual revolution by going to paypal.me/GSRR Media Group and making a financial contribution there. You and I are always working to improve the show. Obviously, traveling around, you're going to be doing some traveling. All these things cost money, upgrading the equipment, paying for the services that we use. I also want to remind people that they can watch the simulcasts of these videos by subscribing to the Bishop's YouTube channel. Get on YouTube and search for Global Spiritual Revolution Radio and Media Group and hit the subscribe button. I want to thank the over 650 people that have been watching us on the Bishop's channel. And Bishop, it's been another great episode today. I think we've touched on so many other things that we could do shows about, Dr. Martin Luther King and LeBron James and all this stuff. So we'll be back next week. And I want to thank all of our viewers for watching. I want to remind everybody you can support Crowdsource the Truth by going to subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth, or patreon.com/crowdsource the truth. I can't bring people great shows with guests like the Bishop without your support and sponsorship. And you know, Bishop, people can also go to crowdsourcethetruth.com. They can support the Counter Lawfare Fund, where I have begun the fight against the Emmys. People are going to learn a lot more about that with the first public filing in my defense hitting the docket today. And I'm going to have more information about Robert David Steele's anti-speech strategy soon. I've just been so overwhelmed. Bishop, thank you for another great show. We'll be back next week. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Don't miss tonight's show with Mike Moore of True Pundit, 8 p.m. We'll have another episode of More Pain. I'll see everybody then. And Bishop, I'll speak to you soon.
See you next week, my friend, for a brand new series. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks, everybody.